Welcome to today's episode of Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Jackson from Detroit Public Schools Community District PD in Michigan. He has a total of 26 years in law enforcement. Welcome to the show, Chief Jackson. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, thanks for having me.
Of course. No, I'm really looking forward to it. So, give us a little bit of background. Who are you? Why law enforcement?
Oh, wow, great question. Initially, I had no aspirations to get into law enforcement. When I was in undergrad, I was going to school for medicine. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. But like I tell every student, there's three things that an aspiring doctor needs, time, money, and good grades. And at that time, I didn't have any of them. So, Detroit Police Department, which is the city which within our municipality is housed, they were hiring really heavily. They were recruiting every day. So every day I'm commuting back and forth to school. I'm hearing these advertisements for come join the best police department in the world and all of that good stuff. So I kind of thought about it like, hey, I could use some money. Policing seems fun. So make a very long story short, I went down, took the physical agility test or the written test first and the physical agility test, went through the background and then became the police and I absolutely fell in love with it. So I found out that's what I should have been doing as opposed to trying to be a doctor. And 26 years later, here we are.
I love that. When I was little, I thought I wanted to be a doctor too. And then I realized that I faint at the sight of blood. So I couldn't be a doctor or do what you do. So here we are. What was your experience like with law enforcement before you got into it? Because you said that you had this kind of mentality of like, oh, that looks like it was fun. So did you have positive interactions with law enforcement before that helped kind of make that decision for you?
Overwhelmingly positive. I grew up in the city of Detroit. There's always a stigma about policing in urban communities. That was not my experience. I don't recall any negative interaction with police. When I was very young, there were police officers who lived in the neighborhood. I played with their kids, so my interactions with them was not so much in the official capacity of law enforcement, but I knew what they did. So I saw the duality of it. I see you at home, you're a dad. Sometimes I see the police car in front of the house. So there were only the positive examples of. I mean, now surely you see in the media some of the negative interactions, but for me personally, that wasn't my experience.
I think it's a really important topic to discuss because I agree with you. I think that the interactions and the experiences that we have are going to leave an imprint on us. And that is going to be louder than what you hear from other people or hear in the media. I've had similar experiences where someone says something, I'm like, wait, that's not what my experience was. Like, I understand that maybe people are talking about something, but I'm going to stick to my guns and my experience that I had. And I think it's really important to what you said of, you knew the human behind the officer. And so you were able to make that personal connection with them over time. Do you think that because you had that impacted how you show up in the community? And have you tried to show more of that human element to you as well?
Absolutely. And the thing about experiences, they are what they are. We can argue facts and figures, but it's very difficult for me to argue with your story.
Mhm.
That's your story. So for me, my experience, my story with the police was positive. And at the same time, I don't discount someone who had a negative interaction.
Mm.
So the way I show up is making sure that I don't do things to make someone look at me, thus judging the entire profession based off of their interaction with me, based off something negative. Now, if I can do something positive and hopefully that opens up the lines of communication for the next interaction, they don't judge this person because they said, well, the last time I dealt with the police, they were really cool.
Yeah.
So that's just the way I try to show up in this thing, making sure that, the song After Police came out in the 80s. And even as I got older into the job, people would play it sometimes looking to offend. I didn't get upset about it. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't doing things to make them want to say that.
I really like that a lot. You're like, I'm just gonna set my own example here. And,
Absolutely.
hopefully that the interaction they have with me will maybe have them thinking a little bit different moving forward.
That's it. That's all we can do.
Yeah, 100%. I know that we talked a lot about, what you guys do within your PD. And I know that there are a lot of things that make school policing really unique. So can you give a little bit of background into what you do and how school policing is maybe a little bit more unique in the skills and the qualities that you have to have?
Yeah, absolutely. So, school policing mirrors a lot of community policing where you have sustained interactions with your constituents. In our case, it's young people. So when I have an officer assigned to a school, they build those relationships with inside of that school space, and I've only seen the positive results. Clearly, if you have somebody who just has a disdain for law enforcement authority, they don't care who's in the building. But if a person's mind isn't made up and their constant interaction is something positive, they look at you as a true resource. When I worked inside the school space, different municipality, it was we don't like the police, but we like OJ. It was Officer Jackson. They called me OJ. I was everywhere. I was at home athletic events, away athletic events. They knew my kids. They knew me in the community. So I became a part of their community as well. So taking those opportunities to be extremely intentional about the relationship building aspect of it. Uh, and a lot of times in traditional policing, it is enforcement based. If something happens, the police show up, we deal with it. And the community model, school resource model, we are there with the sole goal of to build those relationships. So you don't just look at me as a police. I have a last name, I have a first name, I may even have a nickname, and that's what you refer to me as. If done the right way, mentorship, coaching, they all go hand in hand. So through my lived experience, I can meet a young person where they are and get them where they need to go.
Yeah. And you told me offline that you guys are the only school district that has a police department. Are you are you serving a lot of kids that maybe came from hard childhood experiences, that maybe had challenging upbringings, and you're trying to set an example for the future to show them that there's another way forward?
Absolutely. So Michigan, in Michigan, there are other in different states, there are school districts who have police departments. Their police departments are associated with that school district. In the state of Michigan, we are the only one. This is Detroit, so Detroit has its challenges. Uh, Detroit has its reputation, but our school district in some cases is just a microcosm of the city. So outside of the elements that they may have, that 7.5, 8 hour school day, we need to make sure that that is a bright spot for them. We don't know what our young people are going home to, but we just need to make sure that they have structure, that they are heard, and they are empowered to be successful. And we just do it from the vehicle of law enforcement.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that because I've heard stories about um, kids that have behavioral issues and law enforcement stepping in and saying, hey, like, why? What's going on at home? How can we help them? How can we mentor them? How can we set a good example for them? And, I came from a hard childhood too. And I know what it's like to have that separation where, maybe at school it's like that one time where you could be something different. But I also know what it's like to not have mentors and not have people like in my corner to show me that you can do something different. Sometimes you think that you're so limited to the circumstances that you were dealt. And when you have people in your corner saying, hey, like we got you and we're going to get you, like you said, where you can go and so that you can achieve things outside of the hand that you were dealt, I think it's such a powerful message, and I wish that I would have had that when I was younger. I wish that someone would have sat me down and looked me in the eye and said, "Hey, you don't have to choose the same path that you were dealt. You can be something great, and we're here with you." So I really appreciate you saying that because it really hits close to my heart for sure.
Absolutely. I think good police officers are nosy by nature. We're used to asking questions. It's just a matter of asking the next or the right question. If you meet a young person that's having a bad day, because a lot of times that's what it's attributed to. We feel like adults are the only people who can have a bad day. No, sometimes our kids have bad days too. And just asking them, why are you upset? Why are you angry? What happened to you that has made you upset? To realize that a lot of times it's an external stimulus that is eliciting this behavior and to ask the next question, just to get them to meet them. And as I said, to meet them where they are, right there in that moment, they're upset. Okay. Let me come to where you are because we can't stay here. You can't stay upset. You can't stay defiant. But now help me get you to where we need to go so you can get on with the rest of your day and so can I.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you said asking better questions. That's something that we've talked about a few times on the podcast, and I think a lot of people are trying to identify like how can we ask better follow-up questions? How can we ask questions that are going to result in better responses or conversations? I tried to ask you a question before this. I don't know if you noticed, I've been practicing. I think it's all about reps of being like, hey, what's the best thing that happened today? Or and having more of those conversations than just saying like, hey, you good? Because we know the response is like, yep, good, fine. You saying like, hey, why are you upset? What happened? Talk to me. I think that it's really important that we start to identify, is there a better way that we can communicate and connect with people? How are you able to connect with the younger generation? Obviously they talk in a different way. They're used to technology. They have different language. I don't even know some of the words that they're saying anymore. So how are you able to communicate in an effective way that they respond to?
I'm very fortunate. I have a 17-year-old translator that I live with.
Okay.
So a lot of things I can just go to my source and ask, hey, what does this mean? I think where adults, where we miss the mark is that we believe that to relate, we have to assimilate. And the thing about young people is that they can recognize disingenuous or fake behavior very quickly. So when you go into a space and you start trying to use their lingo or do the latest dance, that lasts for about 30 seconds.
Okay.
Instead of taking that opportunity to try to look, I'm cool. No, you meet them what they are because one of the things that is when I get to engage young people is teaching them that if you live to be 100 years old, you're going to spend 82 of those years as an adult. Only 18 will be you be considered a child. So getting them to understand that how important their decisions are at a very early age, that what you do at 13, 14, and 15 can positively or negatively impact you when you're 18, 19, 20, or 30. Having those type of conversations with them just to get them to think a little bit deeper. My time with them is going to be very limited. So I like again, I don't go in and try to be cool and I might give them a reference of when I was younger or talk about I have a 20-year-old and I have a 17-year-old. So I'll talk about them in the context of things that they're dealing with and how they make me understand, but not looking to assimilate their behavior um, just to be cool. And
Yeah.
it's just kind of, and I hate to be cliche, but it's cringy as an adult. When I see adults do that, they start dancing. I'm like, stop. Don't do that. The kids, they're laughing they're not laughing with you, they're laughing at you.
You're having the opposite effect of what you're trying to do right now.
Correct.
I like that you said that to relate you don't have to assimilate. I thought that was really cool. I've never heard that before. Um, yeah, I think that it's interesting. I actually thought about this recently. I'll give you two examples. So I think when I was younger, I really didn't understand that my actions could have and it's interesting because it's like you maybe logically do know that there's consequences to your actions, but maybe the immaturity or just not understanding how severe those things are or how they can impact you long term. And so to have adults that kind of lead the way, I think is really powerful. And I think even after you're 18, I was just in a consultation yesterday trying to figure out how I can remove these tattoos that I got when I was 19, and everyone told me that I was going to regret them in my 30s. And I was like, you're crazy. I'm not going to regret this decision. And here we are. And I'm figuring out what I got to do to, get these permanent things off my body. But I do think it's interesting because you're not thinking that way when you're younger. You never think that you're going to be as old as we are today. You think you have so much time and that these decisions aren't going to have lasting impact, and they do. So I appreciate you saying that you're trying to have those conversations to get them to understand that what they do now can impact them long term.
I think it's an obligation as us who've been there. We've been their age, they've never been ours. Time is an illusion. Yesterday's a memory, tomorrow's a hope. All we have is right now. So in teaching them to take advantage of it, I encourage young people to invest when I deal with them, one of the things I always impart with them is how important their time is, and I tell them they can do three things with it. They can spend it, invest it, or they can waste it. And
Mm,
depending on what they choose to do with it and who they choose to do it with, can have a very, very significant impact on their lives. So never to be cliche with them, and hey, if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future and all of that things. I just tell them like, listen. I never thought I'd be 48 years old one day. If somebody had, when I was 17, one day you're going to be 48. No, I'm not. It would have not been something I could even have conceived. So just teaching them, like, listen, regardless of what you think, as long as you keep living, you're going to keep getting older. Growing older is a inevitable, but growing up is a choice. So the sooner you start growing up and not being fun averse, but just growing up in your decision making, the better off you'll be.
mm. I like that. Spend it, invest it, or waste it. My mom was not really in my life at all. She was a drug addict and, she kind of came in and out, but she just chose that life of addiction. And, I remember I lived with her for a short period of time when I was a freshman in high school. I was 14 years old. And there was one piece of advice she gave me. And I think at the time I was like, yeah, whatever, and she was never really in my life anyway. So I was like, why should I listen to you? Whatever. But it stuck with me, and it's exactly what you just said. She said, "You are who your friends are." And I remember being like, nope. And then I had a situation where I had a friend who was making bad decisions. And I don't know what drew me to do this, but I remember like we're young, I wrote her like a letter, like a breakup letter, where I was like, I can't be your friend anymore, like I don't want to be associated with you. And I think it was actually a good decision for me to say, hey, like I'm going to separate myself from you. And it was the one piece of advice that my mom gave me that I still stick with today because I think that who you spend your time with greatly influences your decision making and your growth. And it's really important that you select your circle carefully.
Absolutely. And as we get older, we realize sometimes our circles have just become dots because as we become more aligned and more strategic in our decision making, we realize that our time is important and who we're spending it with is equally as important. So just our time is just our most valuable resource and teaching them that, not the material things, not the stuff, but your time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really, I wish that when I was younger, I could recognize some of the greatest times of my life and I could enjoy them a little bit more. And like you said, spend it or invest it. Like I wish that at that time I recognized that that was like my youth and I was doing like really cool things. And I think I was always trying to speed it up. I was always trying to like be older or to do something, and I really never took advantage of that time I had to be young and to do the things. And so sometimes I look back and I'm like, man, if I would have known that that would have been like one of the cool times, I would have enjoyed it more. I would have taken my time a little bit more. And now as we're older, I think hindsight's 2020, you start to realize that like we're closer to the end of this thing than we are the beginning. And so how can we invest our time more um, effectively?
Yep, investing in ourselves. I think that is something that oftentimes we just don't think about and how we do it, whether it be diet, the time we spent physically building ourselves up, or how we build ourselves up mentally. What are you feeding your mind? I'm a voracious reader. One of the things I do with my whole staff, all of the officers here, even our non-sworn security staff, I share whatever book that I'm reading, whatever I got value from, because I'm like, if I can get some value from this, maybe you can too. And that as any sort of leader of an organization, you should always be looking at ways to invest in your people.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you, as a leader, we were talking offline a little bit and sharing about like tasks and emails and all the things that we have to do. And obviously, like you have kids, you're busy. How do you find time as a leader to continue to develop yourself?
In those times that we don't traditionally think as valuable time, audiobooks are my best friend. I love audiobooks. I have about a 30-minute commute to and from work, so I'm always listening to something, whether it be a good podcast, a good book, um, whatever conference or something I can find myself into. And a lot of times it's just taking that, I know we've said time a lot, but taking that time to be intentional about building myself up. I love the gym. That's my morning coffee. I try to get in there at least 5 or 6 days a week. And even now we're doing a department-wide fitness challenge, and it's not a me against you thing, it's a you against you thing. So you're only competing with the person you were yesterday, and letting people know there's the intentionality of self-improvement is something that we all have to take serious.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this idea of 1%, like 1% better every day. And
Mhm.
I think that so often when we think of wellness, we think that it has to be these major strides. And I think if we can have the mentality of like, hey, how can I just be 1% better today than I was yesterday? And what does that look like? And I'm a huge fan of micro learning. So I will set a timer and say, okay, I got 10 minutes or I have 15 minutes. I'm going to read as many pages of this book that I can and try to learn something. I like what you said, and I don't know if you know that this is considered habit stacking. Have you heard of habit stacking before?
Not anything intentional, but just kind of passive. I've heard the term used before.
Yeah, so exactly what you just said of listening to an audiobook on your commute, that's habit stacking. So you are adding something to what you're already doing. So we're not asking you to carve out more time, right? I'm not saying, hey, I need you to find 30 minutes to listen to this audiobook. We're saying, hey, you are already spending 30 minutes commuting.
Mhm.
How can we add to what you're doing to so that you have more wellness or you can be more effective in learning and educating and growing. So that is a piece of habit stacking. And I'm a huge fan of that because it's like, hey, we're all busy. So how can we utilize our time that we already have the most effectively?
Absolutely.
So you guys, I want to talk a little bit about what you guys are doing. So you mentioned this earlier. You have a really robust SRO program that's having a positive impact. And we talked a little bit, and I had another chief say this, and I'm curious kind of what your thoughts are on this, but this idea of trying to disrupt the school to prison pipeline, but also how can you have a positive influence on the younger generation and how that might impact hiring and recruitment long term.
So we have school district of about 49, 50,000 students. So we have 50,000 opportunities to change a life, whether it be through a conversation. We have an Explorers program here for young people who are interested in careers in law enforcement. We partner with various law enforcement agencies, even bringing in some of our federal partners to speak with them about just various opportunities. So, as an SRO, because that's what we are, we're resource officers, making sure that our people understand that when we're out there, we are recruiting. We are recruiting into the profession, we're recruiting into our department. And it could be potentially, we've seen it where young people who were mentored by some of our officers became officers later. So they were able to not just lead by example, but be the example that
Mm.
inspired someone else to want to do like, hey, I can do that too. The positive effect it had on me, I would like to have that on others. So it's really modeling the behaviors that we want to see in others. You said it earlier about wishing I had known the things that I know now that somebody had taught me. That's even some of the various mentor programs that we've developed within the district. It's teaching the things that we wish I wish at 17 somebody would have taught me about compound interest and credit cards. So we teach about compound interest and credit card from the nexus of public safety. Just really using the almost a captive audience, if you will, that when we're speaking to our young people, that hey, every conversation doesn't have to be just a rap session where we're sitting around, hey, tell me what's going on with you. But no, we're engaging and we're teaching. Like, hey, today we're going to learn about interactions with law enforcement. We're going to learn about safe and healthy relationships with your peers of same or opposite sex. And again, like I said, financial literacy. So using, because we are a school-based police department, education, we try to make education the nexus of everything that we do.
Mm.
Somehow we're going to teach you something.
I like that a lot. And I've never heard anyone say that when you said we have 50,000 opportunities to change a life. I think no matter what type of police department you're in, having that mentality every time you go to work of like, I have these opportunities today to help somebody helps you to get through maybe some of the hard times. Sometimes you're not always gonna you're humans too. It's not always gonna feel like you're having maybe the impact that you want, but that attitude of like, I have the opportunity today to help someone. I like that a lot.
Yep, we have. When you think about it, from the position of a school resource officer, you are engaging with young people every day. So if you work in one of our largest high schools is Cass Tech, 3,500 kids, you probably won't have an opportunity to interact directly with 3,500 kids. But at some point in time or another, those young people see you, they see what you're doing. They may hear something that you say to another student. So you have the whole indirect learning thing there. And you, again, thinking audaciously, you can impact the entire city of Detroit from stepping
Mhm.
out of your police car, walking into a school, smiling, fist bumping, giving some, and just having those extremely important and intentional conversations
Mm.
and being mindful of your actions. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. What do you look at when you're hiring for your department? Are there certain qualities or certain skill sets that you're looking for that would be a good fit?
Absolutely. One of the things that I like to look for is the aptitude for empathy.
Mm.
Can you go inside of a space, good day, bad day, ugly day, recognize that you are the adult, this person is the child, and ensuring that they are heard and they are valued, and whatever you have going on to maintain that, whether it be a simple conversation or even if something as serious as you having to arrest that student because whatever they did rose to the level of they had to be detained. But making sure that you have that aptitude for empathy. I don't care about writing tickets. I don't care about arrests. I care about relationship building.
Mm.
So sometimes I don't sit on every police interview, but my team knows what I'm looking for. One of the things I'll even ask, sometimes I'll, excuse me, pop in on an interview, is what do you think your day is going to look like? And if their day consists of, well, I'll drive around making sure there's no problems and then I'll do this, that may not be somebody I want. Not to say they can't be coached up, but I'm looking for the person that says, I'm going to go into a space, I'm going to mentor some kids, I'm going to check in with my principal, see what's going on, see what I can do, how I can add value. That's the person that I want. When I talk about the aptitude for empathy, a lot of times in law enforcement, one of the go-tos is always training. We need more training. We got to train, 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 train. Um, I have a Cocker Spaniel at home, and he's a pretty good dog. But if I sent him I could send him to the Juilliard of meow schools. He could go to the finest meows, Harvard meow school. He's never going to learn to do that because he doesn't have the aptitude for it. So if you take somebody who does not have the aptitude for empathy or understands what the assignment is, I can send them all the training in the world and they're not going to receive it because they're not designed to receive it. They don't have the aptitude for it. So the person that I want is the individual who understands how important this role is. I tell folks, this is not hard. Once the kids go home, we have athletic events, but our day is pretty much over. We kind of revert to a asset protection model once the kids go home, but it's extremely important. So them understanding the importance of it, the interactions, that's the person that I want.
Yeah. How have you found, because we talked about this offline about how you are so selective. You want the right type of person interacting with the community that you serve and these kids. How can you be so selective when there's a hiring shortage across the country? Are you guys short-staffed? Are you seeing that it's harder, or do you feel like you guys are in a completely different boat?
Well, we have those same hiring challenges as any other police agency. There's always there's a department that's paying more, they have more resources, they can pay more. But the one thing that we can offer that a lot of folks can't is the ability to engage before you have to take police action.
Mm.
And when a person really wants to do that, they come in, if they get into the law enforcement space, if you go to a traditional police department, one or two things happens when you get into school resource officer roles. Either it's you've been there long enough to apply for it, if you will, internally and get it, or you get backed into it as the low person on the totem pole because nobody else wants it. So either way, the district suffers. Our situation is different. That you come in the door, I don't make any promises. I can't promise you're going to be a detective one day. I can't promise you're going to be on a SWAT team, but I can promise you you're going to deal with some kids. And if that's what you want to do, then you are in the right spot. We have a high degree of flexibility. We have schools that start as early as 7 a.m. And then we have schools that dismiss as late as after 4 p.m. So because of that spectrum, if a person needs to work an earlier shift, they can. My thing is, as long as you work 8 hours, I don't care where you work it. So a person who needs, if they have smaller kids and they need a flexible shift, this is a place to come because I have on a given day, I might have five shifts going. I have a 7 to 3, I have 8 to 4, I have a 10 to 6. I even have something, I have a 5 p.m. to something else, a 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. So we offer a lot of flexibility in what we do, and it works. So while we may not be able to compete in some aspects, obviously we are a school-based police department, so there's some things that we don't necessarily need a SWAT team. We partner with some of our law enforcement neighbors. But when it comes to wanting to mentorship, if you have a person that wants to do that, hey, I got 50,000 opportunities for you to come in and talk to some people.
One of the things that kind of popped in my head while you were talking was I really feel like you guys are taking a super proactive approach when it comes to what you do. And then what you said earlier about kind of that like ripple effect, you said that you could be saying one thing to a student, then other people hear about it, and then they tell other people, and you said maybe you can affect the whole city of Detroit. And my thought process was that through the work that you guys are doing, the proactive measures, now you are impacting the city of Detroit. Because now, when these kids get out of school and they become adults, maybe they aren't committing crimes. Maybe you are able to stop or to lower the crime rate. And now you're having a greater impact on the entire city and or the state. And so I thought that was kind of a cool visual that popped in my head. Do you ever think about things like that?
Absolutely. I said earlier, I think audaciously, I think that the work that we do in here does just that. It literally impacts generations. When you think of how one bad decision can impact an entire family structure for decades,
Mhm.
centuries even. If we prevent somebody from making a catastrophic decision like that, and then they become a contributing member of society, successful family person, we've positively impacted generations to come based off of our a simple conversation. When if I talk to you about time, or if I'm talking to you about decision making, and you put into practice what I've given you, I've impacted your family for generations to come. One of the stories I tell is I have a first cousin. We were raised like brothers, the children of two sisters, raised in the same house. And literally the day that I went down to the Detroit Police Department to take my physical agility test, he committed a murder. He has literally been incarcerated the entire time that I've been a police officer.
Oh,
He has spent 25 birthdays, 25 Christmases, 25 Thanksgivings. His daughter was 2 years old at the time. She's 27. He has not been in her life physically for 25 years. So you look at this, you talking about something that could be not more drastic in comparison. Here I am, I sit before you as a chief of police and somebody who I was extremely close with based off of one decision,
yeah.
in theory, one decision impacted his life, the life of his child, probably the life of his grandchildren based off of his one decision. And in comparison, I have a 20-year-old who's in his third year at Ohio State, aerospace engineering, Air Force ROTC. I have another child my 17-year-old, who is being heavily recruited for football based off a decision. So
Wow.
I use that story often.
I really appreciate that story. And I was thinking, kind of in my context too, of like, because my dad started running around with gangs when he was in high school. Like what if he had someone like you guys that could have set him on a different path? What would his life had looked like? What would my life had looked like? Maybe I wouldn't have had to had an incarcerated parent who wasn't in my life for however long, maybe things would have been different. And so I appreciate you sharing that story because it's like, wow, one decision, one event changes everything. So
Your life, absolutely.
yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing it. One of the things I kind of want to go back to this, idea of being proactive and what you guys are doing. And you said to me that you don't want your team to be satisfied with this statement of this is not a police matter. So tell me
Yeah,
about this.
I think, and I had saw it over the years where you would see the eyes of a police officer light up when they started listening to a story and they could not find a connection with law enforcement. So they could say, this is not a police matter. I can send you someplace else. Uh, One concept I teach my entire team is that never have your name associated with the inability to solve a problem. I don't care what that problem is. If my phone rings on my desk and I answer the phone, hey, how you doing? It's Chief Jackson. How may I help you? And the person on the other line is, wow, I was looking for Happy's Pizza, or I was looking for whatever. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, you got the wrong number, I would say, hold on, let me get that number for you. Because now, even from the span of public safety, from the span of law enforcement, we're still associated with problem solving. If if you look at society as a mall, as a 20-story mall, I think the only aspect that would touch every single floor is law enforcement. I mean, I think that what we do is so impactful. It touches so many facets of society that we have to make sure that we don't become reduced to it's not a police matter. Because just because it doesn't necessarily, someone doesn't have to go to jail, doesn't mean there's not a problem to be solved. So
Mm,
I really want my folks, the officers here that I'm entrusted with leading, to understand. Ask the next question. Be totally solution oriented, not quick. Not a police matter. I don't have to deal with that. No, it's still a problem to be solved. Let's solve it.
yeah. And it builds trust, you're training people to come to you with things. You don't want to push people away. And it goes back to what we said before of like those personal experiences. If I came up to you and was like, hey, can you help me with this? And you looked at me and said, it's not a police matter, go away. That's now a personal experience that I've had. And now next time I need something, am I going to go to you? I don't know, so you want to
Right.
train people to trust in coming to you with things and asking for help and asking for questions.
Absolutely. One of my favorite authors, one of my, if I ever had a chance to meet a person living or dead, it would be Colin Powell. One of the things he said in his book is people come to you with their problems because they think that you care. When they stop, that means they think you don't care or you can't help them. So, as the police, who we are entrusted with protecting and serving, we don't ever want to be associated with the inability to solve a problem. We
Mm,
don't want people to stop coming to us. We don't want people afraid of us. We don't want people thinking, if I ask this person a question, I may not like their response. I don't even want to have that as a thought. I want their first thought to be, there's a police. Let me go for them to help. Let me go to them for help.
yeah, what a powerful statement. That's great. My final question for you is for the younger generation, and this is for law enforcement. So, what words of wisdom would you share with the younger men and women who are entering into this career today? Maybe something that's helped you along the way or something that you wish you would have known.
Oh, wow. I share this with every young officer is remember the feeling that you had when that badge was pinned on your chest. On the worst days that you have, on the days that you say, you know what, I think I'm gonna go drive a truck, or I think I'm gonna do something different. Remember that feeling that you had when that bag was pinched on your chest, the level of pride that you had. Have that every single day. Walk in excellence. Excellence is a choice. Perfection is an illusion. Excellence is a choice. We can all strive for excellence, and that just means I'm giving you the best of my ability. So always strive for it in the way that you present yourself. Never get complacent in your self-development, the way you present yourself to others. Excellence is a choice. And I think when you choose excellence on a daily basis, everybody benefits from your choice.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I really appreciate you coming on here today.
Oh, no worries. I'm honored to be asked.
Thank you.